Increase. So this award lets me know that good morning, bonjour, comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Bienvenue, bienvenita, bienvenuta, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And what I do is I take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and I put them all together into a story. Because I discovered that many of the same characteristics, the same traits, the same techniques that I use to appraise a gemstone is found in people. So I take those stories and I use them as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge to help people, to empower people to begin to discover the value of their stories. First, I want to say today is March 1st. I'm always excited to have a show in the beginning of the month because I get to say happy birthday to all my Gem Hunter family who are born in March. A couple of names of people I need to shout out to. Christina, Keith's birthday, Gloria, Katrina, and of course, one of my best friend, my executive producer, Barbara J. Beckley. Happy birthday. I'm really excited about today. And also today is the beginning of Women's History Month. So for me, this is like Christmas because if you haven't gotten it by now, the Gem Hunter Stories is really about empowering not only just people, but women in particular. So when we if I get a chance to, for the whole entire month, talk about women empowerment through gemstones. So just be prepared. I'm so excited about this month. And I think I have 5 Wednesdays to spend with you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Barbara. As most of you know, my business is called the Gem Hunter. Gemological appraisals and storytelling services, art, science, history, magic. And what you're going to get today is all of that. All of that is going to come together today. For those of you who've been following my show and still maybe not understand the connection between gemstones and people, I think I might be able to get you a little closer to understanding that today. Good morning, Dr. Santi. Good morning. Namaste. Because it's really important for me to get you to begin to discover your own value. So that's what today's show is today. And I want you to just follow along. It's probably going to be a 2-part show because there's so much packed in this. So let's just get started. Last week, we were talking about stories, as we do every week on this show. We were talking about stories. And I told you that once you hear a story, once the story is in your head, then the next thing is understanding the value of that story. What is the value of that story? And as I say over and over again, nothing has value without a story. And so today's show is basically a continuation of that, entitled Aquamarine, What Dreams May Come. And for those of you who have heard that term used before, that statement, what dreams may come, it actually comes from 2 places. One, it comes from Shakespeare, Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. I think one day I'm just going to have to do that. Well, I get a chance to do that. But also, it comes from the name of a movie that Robin Williams played in. Cuba Gooding Jr. was a phenomenal movie called What Dreams May Come. Because today what we're going to talk about is how to make dreams come true. So let's, but before I get started, I want to kind of do a full disclosure on something. We're going to talk about Aquamarine. And I actually got a phone call a couple of days ago from a viewer's boyfriend, husband. He didn't really identify himself. He just told me that he was concerned by, literally, he said, I'm concerned by the type of pictures that you're showing on your show, that you're putting all kinds of ideas in I think he said my wife's head. And I just thought that was really, really funny that I was like corrupting her. Now I'm a drug dealer. So, and I thought about it for a second and I said, well, literally about a minute later, I was like, okay, I don't care. But to those of you who might be sensitive to beautiful photos of gemstones and jewelry, yeah, you're going to be messed up today. So just prepare yourself. All right. So today we're going to talk about Aquamarine, the birthstone for March. And a lot of people don't like Aquamarine, or they're indifferent about it. It's there, but they don't really think about it. It's not one of the big 4, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds. It's Aquamarine. So I'm going to already get you started at the top level with introducing you to somebody Brazilian, a gemstones that are Brazilian. It has that whole thing. It's called the Dom Pedrão. The Dom Pedrão. This is it. This is an aquamarine. Just some of the finest quality that you will ever see. This is an aquamarine. In fact, this is the Dom Pedrão aquamarine. It is the largest aquamarine in the entire world. The original weight when they found it in Brazil, it was 100 pounds. What is that? 45 kilos. And it was over 3 feet long. That was when they found it. When they found it, they didn't know what to do with it. So I don't know how they did it, but they broke it. And the largest part was what you see is 60 pounds, basically about 2 feet long. And it was named after Dom Pedrão, first and second Dom Pedrão, which were the 2 emperors of Brazil. This is the son. I'm sorry, this is the father, and I'll show you the son. Quick story. This guy was a trip. He came from Portugal. He went to Brazil, was a colony of Portugal. He traveled to Brazil. He created an independence. He took Brazil and created an independent country. Then he got in trouble with some woman. It's always a woman. He got in trouble with some woman, had to leave the country so fast that he left his 5-year-old son Patron II, and most of the pictures look like that. He had a really hard life. He was a good emperor, but he had a hard life because his father just left him, came back and just left him. His mother had already died, so he had a hard life. We were training him to become an emperor from 5 years old and really didn't have a life. So that was what the Dom Patron Aquamarine is named after. This is it. Just go ahead and drool for a second. So last week when we were talking about stories moving into value, I told you about Aquamarine. And Aquamarine, we were talking about amethyst, but now we're talking about Aquamarine. And I never really thought about Aquamarine too much. I knew that Aquamarine was a stone of communication. I knew that because I used to walk around. This is a piece of Aquamarine I used to walk around with in my pocket when I would do speeches, presentations. So I knew that, but I didn't really understand. I didn't understand what it meant. This is Aquamarine in its natural state. And you see, it's beautiful in its natural state. It doesn't have to be polished. What you see is what you see with Aquamarine. Sometimes it's treated, but that's what it is. And I knew about Aquamarine. I knew that Aquamarine was a beryl. Again, a beryl is a whole family of gemstones. It is, for those of you who are scientifically inclined, a beryl is a beryllium aluminum silicate. That's what that is. It's an hexagonal shape. The coloring agent, I always tell you, there's two types of gemstones, allochromatic, idiochromatic. Beryls are allochromatic, meaning that there's something inside of their structure that gives them their color. Aquamarine, it's iron. And I told you that, probably not maybe last show, but I've told you in the past that Aquamarine is in the same family as an emerald. And think of it like this. Aquamarine is the sister of emerald, where the sister, your older sister, always gets all the prop. So this is emerald. In Francais, emerald. Emerald. This is, so when you start studying gemology, most of the time you're talking about diamonds, rubies, emerald, and sapphire. So this is emerald. And it takes all, I mean, emeralds, and we'll talk about emeralds. I'm not saying emeralds are a bad stone. It's just that there's so much more out there that are considered beryls. This is the emerald. Just go ahead and look at that second. And start to notice the difference between an emerald and what I showed you with the aquamarine. Look at the transparency. Emeralds are included from birth. Emeralds are included. When you see an emerald, normally it is treated. 99% of emeralds are treated. So you have to do something to them. But they're beautiful. I mean, ladies, I know this. I'll take orders today. So this is the emerald. But aquamarine, again, just someone's upset with me right now. I don't care. Je m'en fous in Francais. So, but we're trying to talk about aquamarine. I first began to understand what aquamarine was from my business partner. My first jewelry show was in Las Vegas, huge jewelry show, thousands of people there. It was amazing. There was only like 5 black people in the whole joint. And I was walking through this whole crowd of just different vendors and everything else. I went to the left. My business partner, Cosette, went to the right. And about 4 or 5 minutes, about 5-10 minutes had passed actually. And I was looking, and all of a sudden I heard, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" And of course, you know, my man and Marine, I just ran to, what happened? What happened? And she said, "Look." And that's what she showed me. She showed me like the most beautiful aquamarine I had ever seen in my life, to the point when I had to figure out what was so different about that aquamarine than the aquamarines that most people see. A lot of the aquamarine here in America is like, it's okay. But anyhow, this is what aquamarine looks like. This is called a Santa Maria. A Santa Maria is aquamarine that is found in Brazil, and it's a specific variety. The color is intense. This is what a Santa Maria. In fact, I think I love gemology just because I get a chance to use different voices. So a Santa Maria, this is what it looks like. And of course, mines don't last forever, so this mine is being depleted. So fortunately, they found a aquamarine mine similar to that in Africa, which is called the Santa Maria Africana. The Santa Maria Africana. Voila. This is the Santa Maria Africana. Thank you. So last week I was talking about stories, right? You hear it, a story. And then once you hear that story, you understand that that story is the only way you get to value. It's the only way you get to value. I don't care. You guys have been thinking about it for a long time. This show's been on for 3 years. Nothing has value out of the story. So when you hear a story, the next step is determining whether or not that story has value to you. Does it have value? And then once you understand the value of something, you've determined what that value is to you, then you have to make a choice. Last week, I was talking about diamonds, and I talked about blood diamonds. I talked about the movie Avatar and how some of this, much of the same destruction and everything else of the people, the land, they show that Avatar has been happening for 400 or 500 years, 1,000 years, because the movie was supposed to be in 2025. So 1,000 years before, same thing was happening. And then so last week, I told you whether you like diamonds or not, you're going to have to make a choice. And then once you make that choice, you make that choice because you saw something, you heard a story about something. In this case, you're hearing a story about aquamarine. I've told you where it comes from. I told you what the molecular structure is. So that's a story. So once you hear that story, this is the next step. You have to believe. You have to believe in that story. Value, you're not going to value something unless you believe in it. Every woman knows that there's a certain dress, a certain shoe, a certain hairstyle, a certain piece of jewelry that when you put that jewelry on, it empowers you. You feel different. For some women, it's shoes. For some women, it's a certain dress or an outfit, something. And you believe that. And that's where dreams come from. Dreams come from that belief. Now, let me show you. Now, and maybe you didn't get that. So let me show you how that works. So this is aquamarine. And when I put together, and it's a journey every week. Thank you so much for supporting the show. This is like the best fun I've ever had in my whole life with gemology. When I look at a gemstone that I'm going to talk about, the first thing I do is I look at it and say, okay, what does it mean? What I know all the scientific stuff, but what's the story of it on a deeper level? So I will always turn to certain books, about 6 or 7 books that I put together the story. And there's this one book that I use all the time, which is called the Book of Stones. And in that book, it says, and I didn't want to just put it on the screen, it says that these luminous blue gemstones are one of the wonders of the mineral kingdom. They are good for all types of calming and cooling, from hot flashes to anger. They also activate the throat chakra, assisting one in clear communication of one's highest truth. I mean, think about it. What they're saying is, if you have this gemstone, this is aquamarine, obviously not Santa Maria aquamarine, but this is aquamarine. And what they're saying is that if I wear or carry or around this aquamarine, that this aquamarine will assist me in clear communication to my highest truth, to that whole once upon a time concept of where I want to be, where I hope to be, where I dream to be. And the only way that happens, this is the magic. The only way that happens is that you have to believe it. For years, people who are born in March may not have liked aquamarine. Thank you. But now that you heard a story, and that story has value to you, now the next step is to believe it. You have to believe in that story. Here's aquamarine. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh my God. I mean, I put the pictures there and I still look at it and go like, wow, this is what aqua, look how transparent it is. Dr. Santi told me the other day that when she sees the pictures, it reminds her of candy. You want to eat it. Yes, I understand. Aquamarine. In the book, it says that for women, Women's History Month, for women, Aquamarine lends the courage and clarity to express to one's inner knowings, and it enhances intuitive abilities. It is the doorway to communication with the goddess, both within the self and her outer manifestations. Come on. Raise your hand if you wouldn't mind having two of those. To the self and to the goddess, outside and within inside of you. That is what this gemstone does. This is what Aquamarine does. If you wear it, if you have it on your ears, your neck, your décolleté, your fingers, that is what you're saying. And the only way that happens is that you have to believe it. You can't just walk past it in Aquamarine and just go, oh, you're imbued with this power. No, you have to believe that this gemstone has this power. If I wear this gemstone and if I heard that story, then I believe in that, and that story has value to me, then now the possibilities of those things happening to me increases because I believe. I don't even want to leave out the guys. Dreams. What dreams may come. Your dreams come from your beliefs. The things you dream about, what you dream about, you bring about. For the guys, here's Aquamarine again. Here's Aquamarine. For the guys, it says, Aquamarine helps dispel emotional numbness, and the difficulty men sometimes experience in communicating their feelings. I don't have that problem, but there's lots of guys who do. It also calms frustration. I need that. And it helps one keeps one's temper even when provoked. Can I have a ring of that? Can I have that, please? If that gemstone can do that, then I want that. And the only reason that gemstone happens is because I believe it to happen. Yeah. I believe it happens, therefore it happens. Remember that time I told you about my first diamond tennis bracelet that I sold to that woman, and she looked at her arm, I'm telling you, for hours. Her whole thing changed because whatever she believed that diamond tennis bracelet did for her changed her, transformed her right before my eyes because she believed. And from those beliefs, dreams happen. You with me? Is that clear? Please leave a comment if there's any question. I can see it. Leave a comment if that's clear or not clear for you. Just give me a thumbs up or leave a comment for that. Here's Aquamarine. Same gemstone, same beryllium aluminum silicate. That's what it is. Now in the book it says that Aquamarine is a stone of empowerment for both women and men. It helps one realize that not all power comes from force. There is also tremendous power in aligning oneself with the yielding, resistant vitality of life. 20 minutes ago, Aquamarine was just a stone for you. It was like, yeah, it's nice. That's my birthstone. It's blue. It's pretty. It's nice. But now that you've heard the story, and that story made you go, now you see the value of that story for you, wherever you are in your life. That story resonated with you Now that stone, forevermore, you will think of that aquamarine in a completely different way because of the story that I told you today. That story now has value. Aquamarine now has value. And then the only thing to make that aquamarine work is that you got to believe in it. This is it. This is the aquamarine. And just to let you know, on the right, that's what a barrel looks like when it really doesn't have anything in it. For an emerald, what has in it is chromium. That's what gives it the green color. For aquamarine, it's iron. It's like iron 2. And we'll go into that in a second. Iron 2 is what gives aquamarine iron. What you have around the house, what you take, the 7 essential vitamins, iron. That's what it does with aquamarine. That's what it is. That's what it's a hexagonal shape, 6 sides. That's what it is. So all those powers that I just described you, those stories that I told you, is that gemstone, according to these stories, will imbue you, will allow you, will give you, will enhance you to those powers if you do what? If you believe. There is also a tremendous power in aligning oneself with yielding, resilient, vitality of life. That's what that gemstone does. That's what this does. But you have to believe. You have to believe it. This is what we've been talking about. So it says, here you go. The feminine. Aquamarine connects to the divine feminine, the source of life energies. And for those who know her better, can use this stone as a gateway. You're wearing this pendant. It is a special day. It's an anniversary. It's a function. You have to do a presentation, and you know the story of this gemstone. You know that this gemstone can help you as a woman use this stone to get to the divine feminine. The divine feminine that you are, all the women that are around you, and that connection to the divine feminine in the universe. That's just gemstone allows you to have that gateway. How does that happen? How does that happen? How is this book, and I'm reading from this book because it's too much power for me to even try to memorize. But I know it, and I want you to hear it. Because I have whole bunches of books that say basically the same thing. And Dr. Santi will tell you how some of these same thoughts, some of these same concepts come from 1st and 2nd century in India. So how did a concept of what this gemstone is, it's not even an emerald. It's an aquamarine, the sister of the emerald, but yet 2,000, 5,000 years later, this is what we believe. This is what we believe is the case. Take a second to think about how you can use that power for yourself. Think about it. What is the difference between you wanting that job, you wanting to be in a loving relationship, you hoping that your kids grow up okay? You believed Christina's son, Kevin's 22 years old. Happy birthday. 22 years ago, she believed that he would turn out to be a wonderful young man. And he is. And he is. It came from a belief. So what I want you to get out of today is it's that story that leads to value. From value comes a choice. And once you make that choice, then you have to believe. And once you believe, dreams come true. Dreams come true. I didn't say certain dreams, kind of dreams, sort of dreams. I said dreams come true from that belief. Heliodor. Heliodor is a stone of active activation and will, activation of the mind and will. And we'll talk about Heliodor because Heliodor is just, oh my God. But I wanted to say that it's not just one dream, it's not this one belief. When you put beliefs together, this is Heliodor. It is a beryl, just like emerald, just like aquamarine. Though, in fact, the only difference between an aquamarine and a Heliodor is that the iron is different. Aquamarine has an iron with a 2 valence. That means simple. It means it has 2 electrons. It shares 2 electrons, and the Heliodor shares 3 electrons. So aquamarine is a beautiful blue color. Heliodor is this beautiful gold color. And when you put it together, when you put aquamarine and your beliefs of aquamarine together with Heliodor, then you get a stone. There you go. Here they go together in their natural form. Aquamarine, Heliodor. When you put them together, you literally get, where is it? It allows one to speak powerfully for one's achievement of one's will. So you have a gemstone that allows you to communicate on a higher level. Then now you have a gemstone that serves as an activator of your will, an activator of your mind. And what this is saying is you put those 2 gemstones together. And if you believe the story, then those gemstones will imbue you with that power. You will believe that gemstone has that power. If you're wearing that aquamarine, you believe that aquamarine has that power. That's why people buy gemstones. That's why jewelry, despite wherever you are in the world, people love jewelry. Jewelry transcends, whether you like it or not. The whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones and precious metals, and it's all based on a belief, ancient beliefs. Again, aquamarine is iron 2. Fe2, Heliodor Fe3. One electron that separates the 2, and you have 2 totally different gemstones in terms of color, in terms of what it does to you, for you as a spiritual being. Does this make sense? I hope it makes sense. This is how it all comes together. Aquamarine, Heliodor. Allowing one to speak powerfully for the achievement of one's will. So you're wearing an aquamarine and Heliodor bracelet, necklace, earrings, and you're going for that job interview. You are doing a presentation in front of a group of people, and you wearing this. Some people just say, my favorite necklace or my favorite ring. But the reason why it's your favorite is because you believe in that gemstone. You believe in the person that gave it to you. You believe in the whole situation. And therefore, that gemstone gives you that power because you believe in it. That's the power. That's the power. That's why I can do this show every week, because each week I discover something. I didn't know this about aquamarine. I know this about aquamarine. I didn't know aquamarine had that kind of power. That aquamarine connects to the divine feminine, the source of life energies. That's what this stone does. Those of you who didn't like aquamarine, really? Can I have 5, please? Thank you. Just connects to the divine feminine, the source of life energies. That's what this stone does. And to me, the difference between aquamarine and emerald is that aquamarine is transparent. You see the power of it. You see the elegance, the gracefulness of I'm not saying anything wrong with emerald. Emerald is breathtaking. But this is a different energy. This is the different things that I'm sorry, the beautiful just says, yes, the sounds of it, yes, the words, even when you think of, thank you, Dr. Shanti, when you say aquamarine, when you see the color, the reason why Cosette said, oh my God, because that stone was so beautiful. This doesn't even do it justice. that you felt like those of you who've been to the Caribbean or the waters outside of India or Australia, this is the water. This is the color of the Caribbean. So literally, you're talking about a gemstone that embodies what oceans look like, what seas look like, compact all in this gemstone. So imagine how the ancient people believed about this gem, how it was so easy for them to believe that this gemstone had this kind of power because they were around it all the time. Not so much the gemstone, but the water. And this is the encapsulation of that power. Aquamarine was called the goddess of the seas. And you have to believe that. You have to believe that. So I'm going to give you a second. Go ahead and think about it, and I'll see you on the other side. Yes, thank you, Barbara. That was great. Yes, as a scientist, as an African American scientist, there are not, just like there's not a lot of African American scientists, there are even less women scientists. And we're going to do in this month, we're going to do a whole show of just that when you understand the things that women have done, what women have done is unbelievable. In fact, let's go into that. What Women History Month is. What Women's History Month is, it's not just a time when you remember dates and places and a couple of names here and there. You know, we always talk about Harriet Tubman. And again, nothing against the women that we normally talk about. But there are so many women who have done unbelievable things. You're going to meet one next week because Dr. Santi, I know she's blushing to death right now. I don't care. Dr. Santi, I mean, this is the woman that writes books in Sanskrit by hand, the oldest language in the world. This woman writes it by hand, whole volumes of books. I had the pleasure of spending some time with her, and she had a whole party, and it was just, I felt like I was in the presence of Mozart. It was like, she just blew my mind. And there's so many women in the world that have done those things. So what Women's History Month really is, it's an awareness of stories. The only way we're going to, we meaning people in general, men in particular, but women also, the only way you're going to understand your value is if, one, let's go through the whole process. You hear a story about a woman. That story creates value in you. You see something in that woman that reminds you of you. This woman had 5 kids, and yet she still won a race car. She won a car race. The woman who who discovered what the sun is made out of. That woman actually, she figured that out. Her male professor told her no, that will never work, stole her stuff, and he got the credit. And by the time they finally figured out that it was her, she was already dead. So there's so many. Madame Marie Curie, Katherine Johnson. I know Black History Month was yesterday. Katherine Johnson happened to be a woman, and she was African American. And when you saw that, I didn't even like math. Math was okay, I can do it. But it wasn't, I didn't appreciate math until that scene in Hidden Figures when she was a little girl and her teacher gave her, this little black girl, and told her, go up there, Catherine, can you figure it out? And then years later, decades later, here's this same woman sitting there amongst a group of white men, in the 1960s, in the beginning of the space program, here's this woman, and the mission commander, or the NASA commander, gave her. Kevin Costner played that part. He just said, "Here you go, Catherine." And I get emotional about it because it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was just, here's this woman who, despite everything she was going through, despite the fact that she wasn't respected because she was a woman and she was black, she stood up there and figured out how to take John Glenn from Earth into an orbit over Earth and land her, knew exactly within 20 kilometers where he was going to land. And she did it on the board. And I remember tears in my eyes, crying inside, because for the first time, I understood what the beauty of math was because of this woman. And that's what Women's History Month is. It's an opportunity for you to hear a story. It's an opportunity for you, just like you see this Aquamarine, and 40 minutes ago, it was just a gemstone. Like, yeah, okay, it was nice, but now you understand what it does. Now you understand that it's a stone of communication, not just because I said it today, but this is the thought process that people had about this stone for thousands of years. And now that you know what that story is, you make the choice to value that story. Women's History Month is an opportunity for people to understand the not just the contribution, the life-changing, transformative things that women have done. Not to mention they had all of us, okay? I really don't understand that concept. Every human being on the planet came from a woman. Why don't we understand that? I don't know. But what I do know, and the way I think I want people to get it, is through a story. Just like you believe whatever you believe about this Aquamarine, now that I've told you this story, when you learn a story about a woman in history, when you hear that story, and not just a woman in history, the woman that you work with, your boss, the woman that drives the bus, the woman that basically at that restaurant, that chef, that dancer, that actress, that teacher, your wife, your partner. Those stories. Because once upon a time, that woman in your life, she was the most beautiful thing in the world. She was Aquamarine for you. You saw that this is the Aquamarine that, oh my God, Eleanor Roosevelt received from the president of Brazil. It's like one of the largest gifted, well, one of the bluest. I forget the more information about this, but this was the gemstone that Eleanor Roosevelt received in her visit to Brazil. Value. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we will always talk about here. Value. And what you need to understand is, if the same principles that we value a gemstone, the same things that we're saying, if we're saying that this gemstone can do all these things, this gemstone called Aquamarine, this gemstone called a beryllium aluminum silicate, has all those capabilities inside of that we're allowed to speak to the higher level. We understand that value. So, and we believe that. If we believe that about that gemstone, why can't we believe that about ourselves? Why can't we believe that in this whole month you will hear stories of women on every level, in every profession, how they have done miraculous things? How that woman, for men, is supposed to calm a man down, but his temper. How many women have been in my life who just said, "Barry"? And I was like, all right, Barry. I'm not talking about when I was a kid. I'm talking about 2 weeks ago, that just said, "Barry." And those women in my life who have said that, they're laughing right now, like, yeah, because they know I'm special. So no, maybe I don't walk around with an aquamarine all the time, but I have women in my life who are aquamarines for me. Barbara J. Beckley, this is her birthday month. She was born on the Ives of March and never really thought much about aquamarine, but aquamarine is a gemstone that activates your communication, right? What do you think I'm doing on this show? Who do you think got me to do this? My aquamarine, an aquamarine that I may not wear around my neck or my ears, but that person is an aquamarine in my life. Who's your aquamarine? Who's the person that calms you down? Who's the person that allows you? And let's speak on who's that woman, ladies? Who is that woman? Your mom, your grandmother, your sister. Who is that woman that activates your communication? And once you figure that out, then you make the choice to value them, to embody them, to believe in them. That's what you make the choice. When you see this gemstone, from now on, when you see an aquamarine, whether it looks like this or not, because it's aquamarine, something inside of you is going to understand that that resonates on a whole nother level. Because of the story that hopefully I told you, you got it, you remembered that story. Now that story has value to you. And now you are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, when you see an aquamarine, you're going to think about the story that I told you, or at least maybe ponder it and go, And then you make the choice to believe in it, to value it. That's it. That's a Santa Maria Africana. That's what that gemstone is. Look how clear it is. Look how beautifully transparent that gemstone is. Totally different than what an emerald does. Same molecular structure. Ladies, those of you who have sisters, you know that you are, in many cases, are totally different than your sister. Same molecular structure, grew up in the same household, but there's something inside of you that's different than her, and vice versa. Those who, women, with their moms, that your mother and you have the same molecular structure. You're both humans, 2 eyes, all the things that classify you as a human, but because of what's inside of you, you resonate differently. You feel differently. You interact with the light in a different way. I always talk about as a man thinketh. It's really not that hard to switch it over as a woman. I said woman thinking, correct me, grammatically incorrect. Sorry, as a woman thinketh. Okay, literally, you can change the words. Very soon has her mind become very soon so altered has her mind become that the workshop can no longer hold her. It has become so out of harmony with her mentality that it falls out of her life as a garment is cast aside. And with the growth of opportunity which fit the scope of her expanding powers, she passes out of it forever. You got to believe that. You got to believe that is you. When they said her, when they say she, that's it. Very soon, years later, we see this woman we see this youth as a full-grown woman. We find her a master of certain forces of the mind, which she wields with worldwide influence and almost unequal power. In her hands, she holds the cords of gigantic responsibility. She speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang upon her words and remold their characters, and sunlike, she becomes the fixed and luminous center around which innumerable destinies revolve. She has realized the vision of her youth. She has become one with her ideals. And all the women that we celebrate for Women's History Month, that's what happened to them. They began to believe. They believed, they knew that despite the fact of wherever their environment was, this is what a natural aquamarine sits in. This is the matrix that's around it. And despite all the confusion of the matrix around it, somehow God put beryllium, aluminum, silicate, silicon oxide together. And not only did it put it together, the universe, God put it together in a repeating fashion. That's what a mineral is. In that repeating fashion, a habit came together in such a unique way that it's rare. This doesn't happen. Even though aquamarine is not considered a precious gemstones, it's still rare. That's why it has value. Think about the person, think about the woman that's in your life. Think about where she came from, what her environment was. How did she grow up? What was her education? What's her background? What's all the things that came together in such a fashion that that's what you see? What you're experiencing is all the things inside of her, not just outside, all the things inside of her that makes her interact with the light. And that's what we celebrate this month. I want you to go on a whole completely, at least I want to take you on a whole completely different journey of what Women's History Month is. And I can do this all day long, because when you understand what women have done, when you begin to hear the stories of women, not just this forced obligation, to be a gentleman, just literally out of respect. Men have to understand there are things that women can do that you just look at them like, really? I can't do that. And that's okay, because she's an aquamarine and I'm not. There's things that she does that I can't do. Aquamarine is just as brittle. Well, I won't say that. Aquamarine is brittle, just like an emerald. But emeralds have inclusions in them. There's something going on inside of them that make them just a slightly more, that their molecular structure is slightly more brittle than aquamarine. But you still need to protect an aquamarine in the way you set the settings. Aquamarine doesn't have the brilliance of some other gemstones, like a spinel or tourmaline. But aquamarine has that calming feeling. The blue is just a calming stone. It literally says that aquamarine is good for all types of calming and cooling. How many of us have aquamarines in our lives that keeps us calm, that keeps us cool, that sits there and just say, baby, you okay? Yeah, all right. This person may be somebody, this may be a woman that you work with. This may be a woman that you are involved with. This may be a woman that you just say you see at the grocery store, or the gym. And when you're around her, there's just a calming spirit to her. That's an aquamarine. That's an aquamarine. And you have to make the choice of not only recognizing who she is, but also recognizing what you are to her, male or female. So you see how it all comes together? And what I'm saying, and what I'm always going to say, is if I have books and books and books that telling me that that this gemstone is this gemstone because of these characteristics, If you're telling me that this gemstone is a doorway to communication with the goddess, that this what, if I can believe that about this, about a substance that has just basically 4 elements in it: beryllium, aluminum, silicon, and oxygen. 4 elements. How can we not understand the value of the people that are in our lives, the woman that's in our life? And what's so beautiful about it is that she decides every day. You've been with a woman at any point in your life, you know that women change their minds all the time. And what I'm here to tell you as a man now, because I understand gemology, that is okay. I understand women more now. I'm at least more, I don't want to say patient. It's not about patience. It's about really just understanding that they are different. And if I can accept the differences of a gemstone, if I can see this piece of aquamarine that's misshapen and everything else, and I understand that if this aquamarine, it's beautiful as it is, and if I choose to polish and shape and facet this aquamarine will be even more beautiful or equally beautiful. Depends on what you want. Depends on the story that you were told. And that's the beauty of it. That's why I can say aquamarine, what dreams may come. Because once you believe, that's where all the stories, that's where the dreams come from. Those dreams are the things that make what you want come true. And I believe that gemstones really take you there. Gemstones can show you. Gemstones are God's way of showing us how that works on a much smaller case. And then you can extrapolate that out to your own life, to how you feel about the universe, how you feel about yourself. And you just have to believe. It's something that you have to see. But the only way you get there is what? A story. You have to understand the story. So I hope, please leave comments. Please always subscribe. Please leave comments because I want to understand where you are, where you guys are in regards to what did I go too fast? Was it too much? Again, there will be a second part of this. So what I'm going to do for your homework assignment is I want you to take, I always say discover the value of your story. But this week, what I want you to do is make a list. Make a list. Make believe that you're a gemstone. Give yourself a name, and your name is fine. And then list out some of the qualities. If I was appraising you, what qualities would I see that makes you different? And send them to my email, please. Send them to my email. Let me know what qualities you see that make you special. So again, I hope you got something out of today. Please watch for my afterthoughts next week's show. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Again, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemological storyteller. And as always, I want you to take the time to discover the value of your own stories. So until next week, au revoir, à te tella, voilà. The largest aquamarine in the world is called the Dom Pedro, named after the 2 emperors of Brazil. It is a 60-pound, 2-foot long, 10,363 carat obelisk. When they first got it, they didn't know what to do with it. They saw the beauty. They wanted to keep it all intact. So they created a brand new cut called the fantasy cut. Something for you to think about when you get dressed in the morning. Discover the value of your story. Nothing has value without a story. That is the essence of Professor Barry's Science Emporium. Ladies and gentlemen, science is all around us. It is in everything that your child does. It is in everything that your child wants to be. So what I do is take their stories and incorporate it into the stories of the lessons that I want to teach in science and history. And I guarantee that at the end of the lesson, your child will either love science or have a much greater appreciation for science and history, because they will come to realize, as thousands of children have come to realize all over the world, is that at Professor Barry's Science Emporium, everything is science. I hope I have the opportunity to work with your child. Professor Barry's Science Emporium, where everything is science.